Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Oxygen for the Soul. This week's parsha is Parshat Vayera, and it is an action-packed parsha with so much insight and so much wisdom. But I am going to want to highlight one particular part, which I believe is very, very relevant and applicable to us. This concept of a test is brought up in this week's parsha. The idea that God is testing us. The idea that God is testing Abraham, that Sarah is being tested, that Hagar is being tested, that you have this concept of this infinite being creating obstacles for us, putting us in circumstances that are uncomfortable. And this one particular test, which is, I'd say, the most challenging of all the tests that Abraham has to go through, which is the test of sacrificing his son. Now, what's interesting is that the pasuk says something profound. It says, "Ve'elokim Nisa et Avraham," and God tested Abraham. And the question is, well, why are we calling it a test for Abraham? Isn't this a test for Yitzchak? Like, what's Abraham doing? Yitzchak's the guy that's actually going to be slaughtered. He's the guy that's going to have to acquiesce. Why are we calling it the test of Abraham? Why is it that Abraham is the one that's going through this test and not Yitzchak? So let's say there's several answers to this question. It's actually it's a fascinating question, something that I think we could be thinking about for quite some time. I want to share one approach to it. The Shem Shmuel says that it was super easy for the avot to be moser nefesh. Let's explain what mesirut nefesh looks like. Okay, mesirut nefesh means to offer up one's soul. Okay. So you have a scenario where you have people who are going through challenge. I just want to make sure. Can everyone hear me on the call? Because I saw someone. Okay, no, you can't hear me. Hold on a second. I just want to make sure that I just see people typing in that they can't hear me. Hold on, we can't hear you. Let's try it again. Hold on a second. Audio settings. Why can't you hear me? Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Says it's working. Speakers and the microphone. Let's see. Testing. Can you guys hear me now? Yes? Can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Okay, I guess if one person can hear me, then everyone should be able to hear me. If you can't hear me, then something is wrong with your speakers, not mine. Okay, so the pasuk says that he's moser nefesh. Moser nefesh is the idea that we have a test, and the test is whether or not we are going to be able to overcome the challenge that we are in, so that you and I can grow. The tests are there so that we can become better, greater human beings. So Abraham's test was what over here? To sacrifice his son? So the answer is like this. When it comes to being moser nefesh, we know the avot were ready to give up their lives. Abraham was thrown into a fiery pit. That was not a challenge for him. There's no challenge in Abraham giving up his life. But the test of him, someone who was practicing, ethical monotheism, someone who was going around and trying his best to teach the world about peace, love, and kindness. And now he's presented with this idea of having to offer up his child, but made no sense. There was no logic behind it, no logic at all. With why is there still a problem on my end? Join with computer audio. All right, okay. So anyway, I hope that helps everybody else. All right, why is it that he's still suffering? Why is there so much suffering as a result of his choices? Just to go back for those of you that couldn't hear, the question was again, why is it called the test of Abraham? Isaac was the one that's being tested over here. It's going to be his challenge, not Isaac's challenge. Okay, Isaac is the one it's Isaac's challenge, not Abraham's challenge. Isaac's the one that's going to have to go through the challenge of being offered up. And the answer that we're giving is that Abraham was living in a world where he was ready to give up his life instantaneously. Let's explain what Mesirut Nefesh is. Okay, you heard this word, Mesirut Nefesh. It's very often misunderstood. Mesirut Nefesh is not emunah. Emunah is the belief in something that takes place in the past. Emunah is something that can be heard and not seen. It's never taking place in the present. Emunah is something that has happened, and you and I are carrying that belief in that idea of what was. Mesirat Nefesh is something that's taking place in the present. It's something that you and I have to deal with right here, right now. Soldiers that are fighting, who are there to protect civilians, are being moser nefesh. They're putting their life on the front line for the current moment. Okay, it's not for the past. Avraham Avinu over here is being tested, right, for this particular moment. He's being moser nefesh. How do I explain why I'm offering up my son as a sacrifice? I gave lectures about how Molech, which was the god that most of the people in those times worshipped, which was the fire god, literally offering up a child and putting it into a fiery oven. That is how they worshiped this god, that life had no value. Life was meaningless. This is something that Abraham utterly rejects. And now God is coming to him and asking him to do something which made it was completely illogical. There was no logic behind this. It made no sense. Judaism does not want you to believe in something irrational. Judaism wants you to believe in something that is very rational. So the test that we hear was, how far can Abraham go as far as his belief with having something that God was asking him to do that was outside of reason? It says that what does he do? He takes the test. It doesn't make any sense to him, but the challenge was, okay, I'm going to do it. Next day, he wakes up early in the morning. Okay, he gets up very early in the morning, right? If you and I have a test the next morning, we're not waking up early, right? He wakes up early in the morning. God says, God tests Abraham. I'm here. What do you need, God? Take your only son, take him and go. Lech lecha, for yourself, again, same language. To where? Eretz HaMoriah, the land of Moriah, which is we know today, which is in Jerusalem. That's Har Habayit. That's the mountain that the temple was built on. And the pasuk says, "Va'alehu sham," and I want you to elevate him there, le'olah, as a sacrifice on al echad harim, on one of those mountains, which I'll tell you when you get there. Okay. What happens? He hears this. Vayashkem Avraham baboker. He gets up early in the morning. Vayachbosh et chamaro, and he himself saddles his own donkey. V'yikach et shnei na'arav. He takes both of his sons, ito with him. Vet Yitzchak bano, and Yitzchak his son. Vivkat, he takes the wood for the offering, and so on and so forth. He gets there by Yom HaShlishi on the third day. It takes him 3 days of traveling. He's going somewhere. And God doesn't tell him where to go. God doesn't tell him which mountain. He's like, you go there and I'll show you a mountain. It says, V'yisa Avraham et einav, and he lifted up his eyes. Vayera et hamakom merachok, and he sees the place from afar. Well, what did he see exactly? What was it that he saw over here? It says, V'yisa Avraham et einav. Avraham, he sees his eyes, he sees his place from afar. Okay, so one opinion is that, the word makom is a hint to Jacob, Yaakov. From afar he sees Yaakov. V'yipga b'makom, it says by Jacob, that he was wounded in that place. Okay, sorry, v'yipga b'makom, and he arrived at that place. This is when Yaakov was having the dream. V'yipga b'makom, he arrived at that place, right? Over here, the pasuk is saying that Abraham lifts up and he sees Yaakov. Yaakov represents the greatest expression of the patriarchs. He represents truth. Titin emet leYaakov. So when he gets to this place, he sees this place from afar. What does that mean? That Abraham is trying to figure out how to bring the soul of Jacob into the world. Because how could the soul of Jacob come to the world if I'm about to kill Isaac? It doesn't make any sense. So Rashi claims over here, this is what Rashi quotes, he says that Abraham says to God, I'm going to explain my complaint. Right? Yesterday you told me that Isaac is going to be your child, your only son, and now you're telling me, Kach na'ed bincha, take your only son. So what does that pasuk say? They use the word merachok, from a distance. Abraham distanced this question from his mind. He stopped asking the question, and he wanted to do whatever he could to get to a place of emunah peshuta. We don't understand suffering. We don't understand why we go through challenge. We don't understand why God makes it hard. We don't understand the test that God creates. But the one thing we do know is that when God does test, he conceals himself. He conceals himself and he takes away a person's perception of God. He doesn't have the same awareness. When you're going through a challenge, you can't see God. He does it on purpose. This is where you have the most ultimate expression of the clarity. If you're sitting in the Beit Midrash and you're holding a Chumash and you're saying your Tehillim and you're doing your whole entire thing over there, right? It's easier to believe in God. You're standing in the synagogue. But when you're away from it, you're alone at home, you're at work, you're somewhere else, and no one's there. You're not in that spiritual state. And now you're being tested. That's where the real challenge is. And in that place where you're being tested, where's God? He's pulled away somehow. He's not there anymore. But when one is aware he's standing before a king, he's standing before God, of course he's not going to make the poor choice. He's going to make the right choice. A test always takes place when a person is in a state where he loses his clarity in his emunah, in his belief. And therefore, we have to assume that when God tests Abraham and he says, Kach na et bincha, et yechidecha, take your son, your favorite son, God takes away Abraham's clarity, so that he will remain in a place where he could make that choice. And this becomes his unique test. Vayera tamakom merachok. God is called Makom, right? He is called Mekomo shel Olam, the place of the world. God is the place. He is that. So Abraham doesn't experience dveikut like that. He always felt close to God. But now what does he see? He sees God is Merachok. God is far away from him. The Makom Merachok means that Abraham sees, he's like, God, it's just so, I don't see this. How is this moment in time? How is this moment in time giving me the ability to draw closer to finding, I don't have it. I don't know how to connect to the Borei Olam through this circumstance that I'm in. And I want you to be rest assured that when you are going through this place of challenge, you're going through this place of difficulty, you're going through this place of uncertainty, know that God is closer to you. When you don't feel God's presence, you know what that is? I love giving this analogy. You know, those of you that have children or have nephews and nieces, when you teach a child to walk, there is something profound about holding a kid's hand and walking with them. You've seen that before, right? And then at some point, if you really want the child to be, I guess, independent and walk on his own, you got to let go. When you're holding the kid's hands, he's so excited, he's smiling, and he's walking, and you're seeing him, and he's so excited. And then at some point, you got to let go. I want you to do this. Whenever you see that kid, look at the kid's face when you let go. He's like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Before, he felt like he could do anything. He's walking. And now, all of a sudden, you let go. He's like, I'm in trouble. I'm alone. It's in that space where the parent lets go. The parent loves the child more than when holding on. Why? Because the greatest gift I can give to my children is independence. The ability to stand on their own 2 feet. The greatest gift, V'yigamel Abraham, and we weaned Isaac, right? The weaning comes from the word gomel chasadim. The greatest chesed we could do is pull a person away from the spout of food. Let him be independent. Let him be on his own. The greatest tzedakah you can give is giving someone a job so he can have that independence. But so we say that the Anshe Knesset Gedolah taught us 3 things. It says what? It says, he says, Asu sayag LaTorah, right? I'm blanking right now. Of course, it's right there. The pasuk, it's the first Mishnah in Perkei Avot, and it says, right? It says no. It says, "Hey, amru shlosh dvarim." They taught 3 things. It says, "Havu mitunim bedin." Be strict in your judgment. Hemidu talmidim harbeh. Raise up many students. V'asu sayag LaTorah. That's the first Mishnah in Perkei Avot. Okay. V'hemidu talmidim harbeh is one of the 3 things the Great Assembly taught us. It's the first Mishnah in Avot, the first Mishnah that is taught, the book of ethics, the book of moral clarity. It says that one of the 3 things are, number 1 is be strict in your judgment, be super clear before you make a judgment. Number 2 is stand up many students. Number 3 is make a fence for the Torah. Okay? I want to highlight this number 2 piece. The number 2 piece says, right, stand up many students. Why doesn't it just say make many students? Why do I got to stand it up? The greatest gift a teacher can give to their students is the gift of not needing the teacher. I don't want you to call me with all your problems. I mean, I do. I'm here to help any way I can. But the goal is for me to create students that are able to stand on their own. I want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. If I create a scenario where you're constantly needing to call me and the rabbi is always, always there, right? I failed you. Hemidu tamidim harbe. It's when you stand and make them independent, that's when they're greatest. Every single test that you and I go through in life, including the one that you and I, every Jew on the planet right now is going through a test. I'm confident of it. And we could have a whole conversation of what the test is for us as a people, for us as communities, for us as individuals, with family. But I want you to know that during this time, God is closer to you because He believes that you can walk. You're ready. He's letting go. You don't see Him. Where is He? Well, is it coming? No, it's now that He's closest to you. He sees that God is far away from him, and that's his perception. He's mistaken. He thinks that when God is holding his hand, that God is close. No. It's when God lets go that you're closest. The angels don't understand our strength and power because we have that ability to be independent. They are constantly needing to rely on God. You, as a human being, don't need to. You have a choice to make. You don't need to see Him. You don't need to be nana directly from Him. You could take that. He could hide Himself, and now you're being tested. And I want you to know when you're being tested in that space, He is closest to you. This is Abraham's test, and he passes. He passes. I'm going to end a little shorter today. God willing, I'll have some great news to share with all of you next week. I have something happening downstairs here. 2 people are about to get engaged. I can't say more than that. It's going to happen in a few minutes. And I'll post it later in the group to let you all know what happens. But I want to wish you all an amazing, amazing week. I want you to have an amazing Shabbat. It's been 27 days of the craziest 27 days of my life. With so much happening in Israel, I go to bed crying every night watching the news. Painful. And I know, and I have to remind myself that even in this time of darkness for us and our people, God is close to us. We're being tested. We're being tested because He believes that you and I can run, not just walk. So don't be afraid. Don't lean in. Okay? Embrace it. Know that you are being embraced. You just can't feel it. We are getting closer to a time where everything, like the name Yitzchak means, laughter. You and I are going to laugh. One last idea very quickly, and I'll take it. Ready? Abraham calls his children, he has 2 names for his kids, Yishmael and Yitzchak. Yishmael is in the future, right? Yishmael, and God will listen. Yitzchak is in the future, and He will laugh. Abraham is talking about the future generations. Listen to what Midrash says. Midrash says in the future, the children of Yishmael are going to cause so many problems for the Jewish people. Yishmael, God will listen to the prayers of Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, as a result of the trouble they created him. Yitzchak, in the future, who will laugh? The children of Yitzchak will laugh. The children of Yitzchak will look back at what happened and say, I get it now. Makes sense? Ha ha ha. Okay? We're getting closer to the day of ultimate laughter. I want you to have an amazing Shabbat. May we only share in amazing, amazing things. We should go from chayal chayal, from strength to strength. And all those that are taken captive should be returned soon. Our chayalim should be protected. And we should only share in smachot. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.